I'm David Edds from the biology department, and I'm going to try to share some of my classroom activities today in terms of field trips. And when we were all in middle school and high school, we really loved field trips, and we still love them. And the biology department here makes heavy use of field trips as an instructional method. I thought I would share with you today some of my ideas and some of the activities that we do. Field trips are particularly useful and used in our field biology program, in our fisheries and wildlife program, ecology and biodiversity programs, but throughout the biology department. Along with laboratories, field trips are part of our applied part of our courses, and the students seem to love them, and I love them. It makes it fun, and when people are having fun, it's easier to learn. And so it's certainly been a success for us here in biology to take a lot of field trips. Now, where do we go on our field trips? Right here on campus, there are a lot of places where you could take students. Wooster Lake provides a great site. Campus Woods, just down the hill, is one of our 8 natural areas owned by the university and the foundation. And if you'd like to learn more about our natural areas, I encourage you to go to our website, to the Natural Areas website, and to contact Dr. Bill Jensen, who's the director of our natural areas. Several different areas in and around Emporia that provide opportunities for field trips. This sounds easy for biology, you may be saying, but other disciplines can certainly do field trips too. In business, in health, in libraries, in recreation, the limit is only your imagination of where you might be able to take students. And so what I thought I would do is show you some of the things that I do and how I use information that we collect on field trips. So I might go next door and show you some of the equipment and some of the things that we do on our field trips. This is some of the equipment that we have for field trips in biology, and waders and seines and nets. What we might do is on a field trip to grab a seine and head to the river and try to collect some fish. So let's go this way. We would go to a river or pond and use our equipment to collect fish, and then we could bring those fish back into the classroom and put them in an aquarium and watch them. Like Yogi Berra said, you can learn a lot just by watching. Now, how do I allot points for this? How do I incorporate this into the grading scheme of my classes? In some of the classes, I have students draw specimens that they have brought back. Let's say, draw 30 different kinds of fish. And this makes the student look at those specimens closely and make a eye-hand-mind connection that helps solidify the characteristics that they need to be able to identify those fishes. So I might grade those drawings, and that would provide points for the classroom. Sometimes we'll go on field trips to professional meetings, and I'll have students then provide a written critique of that meeting, what they liked about the meeting, didn't like particularly about the meeting, a little summary of the meeting, and a summary or critique of a paper or poster that they liked, that they found good, and why that was good, and then maybe a paper or poster that they didn't like so much, that they found kind of bad, and why, and thus learn what makes a good poster, what makes a good presentation. I have students on field trips also keep a field notebook where they write down their observations and the kinds of organisms that we're collecting on a certain day. And so this makes a permanent record and teaches them how to keep the records that are important in science. And I can grade the field notebook at the end of the semester and provide points to those students. I might incorporate experiences in a field trip into an exam, into a written classroom exam, by asking the students to compare and contrast two different sites that we visited. Maybe the consumers and producers at two different sites, and thus try to bring all that together in their mind, grade that as a question on an exam. Students sometimes get a little loose on field trips. That's a problem. Get a little wild and play around a little bit too much, maybe have a little bit too much fun. And so how to rein them in on that. Sometimes I'll give an oral pop quiz in the field, allotting points for their ability to identify maybe species that we've seen that day. Make sure that they're paying attention and learning while we're doing. I have, over the years, learned that maybe I need to allot points for a field trip's active and enthusiastic participation. So those that are enthusiastically and actively participating in the field trip get the full complement of points, those that participate a little less, get a little fewer points. Incorporate that into the semester grading scheme. One thing I have found as a problem is a lot of times students will take their field notebook home at night and try to sort of dry lab the day's observations, and the observations are never as good when done later as they are when done right on site, right at that time. And so I've learned to try to give students some time at the end of the field trip to sit down and record their observations right then and there, and that seems to have worked better, to allot some time at the end of the field trip for them to work on their field notebook. There are times, depending on the field trip, that I would give them a handout beforehand, and please read this for next time in preparation. This is where we're going to be going. These are the kinds of things that we're going to be seeing. These are the kinds of things that we're going to be doing. And so if you're prepared beforehand, you'll be better able to learn once we get there. Field trips can also be great for bonding experiences in the classroom. And I have found that in classes where I waited until the end of the semester to go on a big field trip, the students really got to know themselves well, and the class really seemed to come together. And I thought, well, maybe I should have had this at the beginning of the semester. And so I do switch those toward the beginning of the semester. And when students get out on that kind of experience, again, they experience a bonding that helps throughout the semester. That makes that class more close-knit. We've already shared that kind of experience. And so I would encourage you to get out early in the semester and do those things. One potential problem for field trips can be vehicles, but we're fortunate to have a departmental van in biology. You can also check out reserve vans from the university motor pool. A lot of times I will pile students into my own vehicles, and students seem more than willing to drive their own vehicles on many field trips as well. So that doesn't usually end up being a problem. Bigger problems are, those which we all face, time and money. Money is usually not a very big issue because students don't need to spend any extra except for maybe a meal when we're out, if we're out late, maybe an evening meal. And if there are any problems there, then I would try to cover that for an individual student. Time might be more of a problem for you and for the students. We have most of our field trip type courses, most of our laboratory courses late in the afternoon, and I have my classes with a 3-hour block, which gives us a lot of time to get out, do, and get back. And sometimes when we get back later than that, make sure that students know beforehand that we might be back late. Sometimes to get around that, I'll schedule weekend field trips, announcing in the syllabus at the beginning of the semester that 2 weekend field trips are required during the semester, so let's plan ahead now. And if students have real conflicts, we can develop some flexibility around that requirement. Now, there are really only a few problems and many, many, many more benefits. So I encourage you to consider field trips for your own classes. Locally here in town, we have, for me, I'm an aquatic biologist, the Neosho River and the Cottonwood River. Outside of town, we have the Flint Hills National Wildlife Refuge, the Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve. In various classes, such as fisheries management class, I take students to the Milford Fish Hatchery, which is a great trip. In ichthyology, I go to the KU Natural History Museum and see their ichthyology collection. In marine biology, we go to the Omaha Zoo Aquarium, which is a wonderful field trip. And in stream ecology, we take a canoe float trip to the Ozarks. And so those are all very popular and great learning opportunities for the students.